Reading Comprehension, Text Number 1 by Alejandro Zambra. At our school, in particular, which was the strictest in Chile, it turned out that copying was fairly easy, since many of the tests were multiple choice. We still had years to go before taking the academic aptitude test and applying to university, but our teachers wanted us to be comfortable with multiple choice exercises. Although they designed up to 4 different versions of every test, we always found a way to pass information along. We didn't have to write anything or form opinions or develop any ideas of our own. All we had to do was play the game and guess the trick. Of course, we studied, sometimes a lot, but it was never enough. Even if we did nothing but study, we knew that there would always be 2 or 3 impossible questions. We didn't complain. We got the message. Cheating was just part of the deal. I think that, thanks to our cheating, we were able to become part of a community. It's sad to put it like that, but copying gave us solidarity. Sometimes we suffered from guilt, from the feeling that we were frauds, especially when we thought about the future, but we never stopped. Mr. Segovia was our religion teacher. He'd go on and on about any subject except religion. His favorite, in fact, was sex, and the teachers at our school he wanted to have it with. Every class we shared our confessions. Each of us had to say a sin. And after listening to all 45, from stealing to masturbating, Mr. Segovia told us that God would forgive all of our sins. I think it was Cordero who confessed one day that he had copied someone's answers in math. Then we all shared our stories. I copied on the Spanish test, on the science test, on the gym test, and so on. Mr. Segovia, hiding a smile, said that he forgave us, but that we had to make sure we didn't get caught. Suddenly, though, he became serious. If you are all so dishonest at 12, he said, at 40 you're going to be the worse than the Covarrubias twins. We asked him who the Covarrubias twins were, and he looked at us as if he were going to tell us, but then he thought better of it. We kept asking him, but he didn't want to explain. Later we asked our teachers and even the guidance counselor, but no one wanted to tell us the story. We soon forgot about the twins. 5 years later, it was 1993, and we were seniors. One day, when Cordero, Paraguay's little Carlos, and I were skipping school, we ran into Mr. Segovia, coming out of the Tarapaca billiards hall. He wasn't a teacher anymore. He was a train conductor now, and it was his day off. He bought us Coca-Colas and ordered a shot of pisco for himself, though it was early to start drinking. It was then that he finally told us the story of the Covarrubias twins. During their first years of life, the twins Luis and Antonio Covarrubias enjoyed, or suffered through, the equal treatment that parents give to twins. The same haircut, the same clothes, the same class, and the same school. When the twins were 12, they began school at the National Institute, and that was their first real separation. There were more than 720 students, and the twins were placed in different classes for the first time ever. The twins felt pretty lost in that school, which was so huge and impersonal, but they were strong and determined to persevere in their new lives. They always met at lunch to eat together, even though the other students would say stupid jokes. I think I'm seeing double. At the end of 7th grade, they had to choose between fine art and music. They both chose art in the hope that they'd be placed together, but they were in different classes. At the end of 8th grade, when they had to choose between French and English, they planned to go with French, so they could be in the same class. But after their father argued about the importance of knowing English in today's savage and competitive world, they chose to study English. They were still in separate classes during freshman and sophomore years. For the junior year, the twins chose a humanities focus, and finally they were together, in class 3F. Being classmates again after 4 years apart was fun and strange. The twins sat together during the first months of the school year. They protected and helped each other, though when they fought they seemed to hate each other. Of course, this is the most natural thing in the world. There are moments when we hate ourselves, and if we have someone in front of us who is almost exactly like us, our hate is directed toward that person. But around the middle of their junior year, for no obvious reason, their fights became more serious. And at the same time, Antonio lost all interest in school. Luis, on the other hand, continued to get good grades. In fact, he was first in his class that year. Incredibly, his brother Antonio was last and would have to repeat the grade. The school counselor called the parents for a meeting. The counselor said that maybe Antonio did not want to be in the same class as Luis. Luis finished his senior year with excellent grades, and he got the highest score on the history of Chile in the entire country. Luis entered the University of Chile to study law on a full scholarship. Antonio was jealous when he saw his brother leaving for the university, free now of his uniform while he was still stuck in high school. They avoided each other, not even saying hello. One night, when Luis was already in his second semester of law, Antonio started talking to him again in their bedroom. "How's college?" Antonio asked. "In what sense?" "The girls," Antonio clarified. "Oh, there are some really hot girls," Luis replied, trying not to sound boastful. "Yeah, I know there are girls, but how do you do it?" "How do we do what?" said Luis. "How do you fart with girls around?" "Well, you just have to hold it in," Luis answered. They spent that night as they had when they were children, talking and laughing while they competed with their farts and their burps. From then on, they were inseparable. On weekends, they always went out together, matched each other drink for drink, and played tricks switching places. Antonio's grades in high school had improved a lot, but he still wasn't a model student. Near the end of his junior year, he began to feel anxious. Though he felt prepared for the college exam, he wasn't sure that he'd be able to score high enough to study law at the University of Chile like his brother. The idea was Antonio's, naturally, but Luis accepted it right away. In December of that year, Luis Covarrubias registered, presented his brother Antonio's ID card to take the test for the second time, and he gave it his all. He tried so hard that he got even better scores than he had the year before. In fact, he received the nation's highest score on the social studies test. "But none of us have twin brothers," Cordero said that afternoon, when Mr. Segovia finished his story. "You'll still come out ahead," he told us. "You don't know how privileged you are." "Because we go to the National Institute?" I asked. Mr. Segovia smoked his cigarette, maybe already drunk, but then an answer came. "The National Institute is rotten. But the world is rotten," he said. "They prepared you for this, for a world where everyone fucks everyone over. You'll do well on the test. Very well. Don't worry. You all weren't educated. You were trained." We were quiet. It was late by then, almost night. Mr. Segovia sat down, looking thoughtful. "I didn't get a high score. I was the best in my class, in my whole school. I never cheated on exam, but I got a bad score on the university exam, so I had to study religion. I didn't even believe in God. I asked him if he believed in God now, and he answered that yes, now more than ever he believed in God. We said goodbye as if we were friends. He went into the cinema, and we headed down Bulnes Avenue toward Parque El Margo to smoke a few joints. I never heard anything more about Mr. Segovia. Sometimes on the train, when I get into the first car, I look to where the conductor sits, and imagine that our teacher is in there, pressing buttons and yawning. As for the Covarrubias twins, they have a certain amount of fame, as I understand it. They never separated again. They became identical lawyers. I heard that it's to tell which is the more brilliant and which the more corrupt. They have a law firm in the city of Vitacura, and they charge the same rate. They charge what good service is worth. A lot. Questions. Number 1. According to the text, the Covarrubias twins' experience in their new school. A. Was traumatic because it forced them to make bad decisions and separated them for good. B. Gradually shaped them into individuals who could help them make a better country. C. Transformed 2 good brothers into 2 sons of bitches. D. Marked the start of a difficult period for the twins. 2. The best title for this story would be A. How to Train Your Twin. B. Me and My Shadow. C. Against Lawyers. D. Against Twin Lawyers. Number 3. The author believes that multiple choice tests help 1. Prepare students for the university exams. 2. Are easier to cheat on. 3. Do not force students to think. 4. Let teachers grade less. 5. The correct choice is almost always D. A. 1 and 2. B. 1, 3, and 5. C. 2 and 5. D. 1, 2, and 3. Number 4. One can infer from the text that the teachers at the school were bad and cruel because they believed in the rotten education system. B. Were sad and got paid shit. C. Were cruel and severe because they were sad. Everyone was sad back then. D. My classmate chose C, so I'm going to choose C. Number 6. From this text, one understands that A. The students copied on tests because the president was a dictator. B. Copying on tests isn't so bad as long as you're smart about it. C. Copying on tests is part of the learning process for any human being. D. Religion teachers are fun, but they don't always believe in God. 7. The purpose of the story is A. To encourage poor, smart Chilean students to make money by taking tests for rich and lazy students. B. To expose security problems in the administration of the university entrance exams. C. To promote the Covarrubia law firm and to entertain. 8. Which of Mr. Segovia's following statements is in your opinion true? A. You all weren't educated, you were trained. B. You all weren't educated, you were trained. C. You all weren't educated, you were trained. D. You all weren't educated, you were trained.